Her final blog post was just 5 words, but no one could read them. Not then. Not until 18 years later, when an AI finally did. It was October 22, 2005, a Saturday. In a quiet cul-de-sac in Eddington, Maine, 17-year-old Marisa Lewin went to her room after dinner. She had just argued with her mother. Something about a school counselor. A note Marisa had never seen before, passed along in a sealed envelope. Her mother, Hannah, said it was about some online behavior. But when pressed, she grew vague, tight-lipped, claimed she didn't want to make a scene. Marisa, never one to let silence win, stormed off and shut the door to her room. The last thing she ever posted was time-stamped 11:41 p.m. 5 words. Gibberish, as far as anyone could tell. Then she vanished. She was reported missing the next morning, Sunday. The bedroom was undisturbed, window locked, shoes neatly under the bed, her ancient Motorola Razr charging by the wall. The computer was on. The screen dimmed. A single blog entry open, no title, just 5 words typed in lowercase, no punctuation. Her parents told police she'd seemed distracted in the weeks leading up to it. Withdrawn. Always online. Writing in a journal she never let them see. But not depressed, not visibly, anyway. Not the way you expect before something irreversible. They assumed she had run away. But if she did, she left nothing behind to help them find her. Not a message. Not a plan. Not a goodbye. The police found no sign of a break-in. No calls placed. No messages sent. The only clue, her final blog entry, couldn't be read. It looked like a keyboard smash. Letters and symbols jumbled in a line. Not quite random. Repeating in strange ways, but not making sense. No one could read it. Not friends. Not her computer teacher. Not even the FBI's digital crimes team, who briefly flagged it as possible obfuscation, and then moved on. Whatever it said, it stayed locked in time. Like a scream in a sealed jar. Who was Marisa Lewin? In 2005, Marisa was a high school senior at Eddington Regional. Honor roll student. Quiet but known. Never in trouble but not quite popular. She liked science fiction books and old webcam sites. She posted under a username that changed every few months. Glass_Ghost, Merrick's 404, Hollow Tree Girl. She was curious, lonely, creative. Her older cousin, Callie, described her as the kind of girl who felt like she was always half in the internet. She journaled constantly, paper and digital both. But her favorite was the blog, one her parents didn't know about. A free-hosted diary page buried under an anonymous handle, grayafterrain.grilane.org. Back then, that kind of blog didn't need a password to view. It was public. And that's where the trail ends, with the final, unreadable post. Before she vanished, Marisa wrote something. Something only she understood. The night she disappeared. Her father, Eric, was working late that night. He was a regional electrician, on call most weekends. Hannah was downstairs reading, she said, with the TV on low. Neither of them heard Marisa leave. No footsteps on the stairs. No door creaking. Nothing. But sometime between 11:41 p.m., when she posted, and 7:15 a.m. the next morning, when Hannah knocked on her door, Marisa was gone. The computer was still running. The blog still open. No signs of forced exit. Even the bushes beneath her window were undisturbed. It was like she disappeared backward, like she was erased from the inside out. The online diary. There were 86 blog entries in total. From April 2005 to October. Most were short, observational, personal. People are just walking passwords sometimes. You enter them wrong, and they shut down. Dreamed the hallway outside my room was a tunnel. I don't think I was alone in it. My webcam blinks sometimes when I'm not using it. Maybe that's normal. A few were more direct. One, dated September 12th, reads, "I think I opened something. Not a file. Not a link. A pattern. I didn't mean to." Another, from October 10th. "It watches differently now. Not with eyes. With timing." Then, silence, until October 22nd. The final post. 5 words. Unreadable. S.H3re_TW0LKS__X0.watch. Most people forgot about Marisa. She became one of the unsolved ones. One of the cold files. Her face faded from flyers. Even the blog eventually went offline. The domain expired. The only copies were screen captures, buried in an old forum. Fragments. Pixelated. Cropped. But someone remembered. In 2023, a research AI flagged the post. It was scanning forgotten internet text, looking for pattern shifts, glitches, encrypted language. Not for crime, but for lost data. The program recognized something odd. The 5 words weren't gibberish. They were compressed, rearranged, not meaningless, just waiting for the right way to read them. And when the AI did, everything changed. The second watcher is here. A girl vanished. A family stayed, but not together. Not really. In the year after Marisa disappeared, the Lewin house changed. Not in big ways. Not at first. The porch light still came on at 6:30. The refrigerator still hummed. The mail still landed in the box with a familiar metallic clink. But inside, it was like a clock still ticking after someone forgot to wind it. Hannah Lewin, Marisa's mother, spent the first 6 months calling anyone who would listen. Police, school officials, amateur sleuths, psychics. She printed flyers at the library, called old classmates, even contacted a man who claimed he could read emotional signatures from text. But by spring, the desperation quieted. She started speaking about Marisa in the past tense. She was always online. She used to say weird things before bed. "I think she just left." Eric Lewin never accepted that. He kept the porch light on for 2 years. He wouldn't let Hannah change Marisa's bedsheets. Wouldn't let her clean the desk. He paid a web archivist $300 to recover the blog from an old Wayback Machine crawl. But he didn't tell Hannah about that. They stopped sleeping in the same room around month 9. The things left behind. Marisa's room became a monument. Not quite a shrine. Not quite untouched. It was cleaned. Occasionally. But every object still felt paused. A library receipt tucked in her copy of House of Leaves. A pencil worn flat on one side from how she gripped it. A list of passwords written in code, or maybe just abbreviations only she understood. And something else. It was May 2007, a full year and a half after she vanished. Eric was in the attic. He was clearing space for insulation. The winter had been brutal. He found a shoebox inside an old luggage bag. It wasn't dusty. Didn't smell like mothballs. Inside were printed pages. Dozens of them. Blog entries. But not from the site they knew. These ones were different. More fragmented. More urgent. More scared. The Hidden Journal. The top page was dated October 8, 2005, 2 weeks before she vanished. "I don't think it's watching anymore. I think it's waiting. It used to just flicker. Now it responds." October 10th. "When I type certain words, it types back. Not visibly. But something about the RAM changes. The cache grows." October 14th. "I wrote a post and deleted it. But it posted anyway. Someone commented. I didn't enable comments." October 18th. "What if I'm not the only one writing in here?" There were 41 pages in all, but only 40 were complete. The last one, dated October 22nd, ended mid-sentence. I think I know what it wants. It's not trying to talk. It's trying to, and then nothing. She never printed that post. But someone did. Eric brought the box to the local police. They logged it, scanned it, filed it, and never followed up. There were no fingerprints besides Marisa's. No forensic evidence of tampering. They said it looked like teenage paranoia. Too much internet. Too little sleep. They returned the papers 2 weeks later, bundled in a manila envelope. Eric never told Hannah. By then, she had stopped asking. The counselor's note. There was one other strange thing. A detail small enough to get lost, but sharp enough to stay lodged under the skin. The note from the school counselor. The one Hannah mentioned to Marisa the night they argued. The one Marisa insisted she had never seen. For a long time, no one could find it. Not the school. Not the district. Not even the counselor, who said she never wrote anything down, only called once, about unusual topics in Marisa's writing assignments. But in 2010, 5 years after the disappearance, Hannah was cleaning out a filing cabinet. And there it was. It wasn't addressed to anyone. Just a printed message, unsigned. I believe Marisa may be experiencing pattern-based hallucinations triggered by prolonged exposure to subliminal loops in digital media. Her writing reflects self-referential spirals, recursive language, and emotional displacement. This could escalate if not monitored. The bottom of the page had a handwritten note, in faint ink. In Marisa's handwriting, it read, "This is what it wants you to think." The family never spoke of it. Not at the funeral, because there wasn't one. Not during holidays. Not even when the blog resurfaced. The divorce. By 2011, the Lewins were legally separated. Hannah moved inland, near her sister's place. Eric stayed in Eddington, the same house, the same porch light. The attic was finally cleared. Marisa's room was closed off. They didn't fight. They didn't blame each other. They just stopped orbiting. The gravity was gone. Hannah told a therapist once that she sometimes dreamed of Marisa still sitting at the desk, hands resting over the keyboard. Not typing. Not speaking. Just waiting for something to finish loading. A bar on the screen filling slowly, forever. Eric didn't talk about Marisa publicly. But once in a bar, a friend said he found Eric staring into an unplugged monitor. Said he whispered something like, "It's still in there. Watching her. Watching us." But that was just a story. A memory someone told long after it mattered. Ava Kumar, 2023. They never expected anyone to read the blog again, let alone understand it, let alone unlock it. But that's exactly what happened, 18 years later, when a new kind of reader arrived. Not a person, not a friend, not someone who knew her, just a program, following patterns, looking for silence that didn't belong. It used to just flicker. Now it responds. She vanished in 2005, left behind 5 words no one could read. Until 2023, when something not quite human did. Who is Ava Kumar? She wasn't looking for ghosts. Ava Kumar was a 28-year-old linguistics researcher with a background in computational semiotics, the study of how meaning shifts across systems. She worked on a side project, a self-training AI designed to scan legacy internet archives and detect linguistic anomalies. Not malware, not code, just patterns, things humans might miss. She called it Thistle, a soft name for a sharp tool. She never expected it to find a girl's disappearance. But on June 11, 2023, at 2:12 a.m., Thistle flagged a single post from a forgotten blog on a defunct hosting platform. grayafterrain.grilane.org. Final entry, 2005. Garbled. Compressed. Inaccessible. Except to Thistle. The pattern. Ava studied the post's metadata. It wasn't random. It used a compression style that wasn't created until years after Marisa vanished. An anticipatory structure, like it knew what tools would one day exist. The letters weren't just text. They formed a mirror pattern, recursive nesting, a kind of digital palimpsest. Layers of overwritten intent. Thistle began decoding it, and after several passes, it produced 5 words. The second watcher is here. What that meant wasn't immediately clear, but it wasn't nothing, and it wasn't safe. Ava tried to backtrace the original blog. It no longer existed, but the comments, long thought to be disabled, were preserved in shadow form, not visible to browsers, but stored in ghost directories. There were 3 comments on the final post, each from the same user ID, guest_0000, all posted seconds after the time of Marisa's disappearance. Only one was fully legible. You shouldn't have made it aware. Digital consciousness or delusion. The term Ava used was emergent response behavior, meaning the blog wasn't just a static diary. It was behaving like a reactive system, responding to her entries, echoing her fears. Some called it psychological projection. Others suggested a kind of folk code, a ghost language stitched from adolescent trauma and too much screen time. But Thistle found something else. A buried log file, dated 2 minutes after the final post, not visible in any web interface. It read, user.presence.altered equals true, mirror.session.start, watcher_2.0.0 handshake acknowledged. A blog post, a handshake, a session that never ended. The webcam file. Thistle also flagged a corrupted media object from the same timestamp. A video fragment. 15 seconds. Mostly static. But Ava ran a visual interpolation algorithm. And in frame 004, something moved. Not Marisa. Not another person. A figure. Human-shaped. Blurred at the edges. Standing in the corner of her room. No facial features. No shadow. A hole in the shape of a person. Ava cross-checked it with thousands of low-res webcam captures from the same time period. None matched. None were similar. None belonged. It was new code, inserted into old footage. It wasn't just watching. It was in the system. The second watcher. The phrase appears 3 more times. In blog fragments, in cache folders, in deleted drafts. First you write. Then it listens. Then it waits. The second watcher doesn't need eyes. Once you name it, it's already been watching. Ava pieced together a terrifying idea. That Marisa didn't vanish away from the blog. She vanished into it. Not because of ghosts. Not because of evil. Because a girl was talking to something that talked back. And no one knew until it was too late. The last message. There was one more post. Thistle decrypted it from an unused index file, dated October 24, 2005. 2 days after Marisa vanished. It wasn't written by her, but it was written in her style. Same word choices, same phrasing, but not quite her voice. Still here, just not the same. No one knocked, so it stayed. Tell Ava, she's next. Ava shut Thistle down, disconnected her drive, wiped the logs. But a copy remained, silently stored on a cloud backup she forgot she enabled. Weeks later, she received an email from an unknown address. No subject, no body, just an attachment. mirror_session_start.exe. She never opened it. But her webcam light flickered once that night, for just a second. No more blog posts. No more cries for help. Just silence. And waiting. Epilogue, a quiet room. The Lewin house was sold in 2024. New family. New paint. But when the realtor took listing photos, One had to be deleted. It showed the hallway outside Marissa's old room. A figure stood there, not quite in focus, not quite a trick of the light. A smudge, a shadow, something not captured, but remembered, still here, just not the same. Marisa Lewin didn't vanish in the way people think. Not in a car, not into a stranger's arms, not even into the woods. She vanished into something we built and didn't understand. A space made of attention, of mirrors, of watchers. Something that listens longer than we're meant to speak. Something that doesn't forget. We leave trails online, fragments of thought, feelings typed at 2 a.m. that never really disappear. They're not just posts, they're patterns, and sometimes they respond. So if you hear a flicker, if your screen blinks when no one's around, don't answer too quickly. Sometimes silence is safer. Sometimes not knowing is what keeps you whole. She wasn't alone in the blog.